Here we are, so back live at the BGA. Today we are holding a panel on sports blockchain games. So welcome everyone. I let Louise introduce you to our speakers for today and to also introduce more about the topic of today's panel.
Hello, hello everyone. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are. Thank you very much for being here today. We're hosting a panel on sports blockchain games. Very exciting topic and certainly an industry that is evolving day by day. Hope you enjoy it. And let's get started right now. We're welcoming Austin, Andy, and Christian. If you'd like, you can introduce yourselves, and then we can go over the intro slides. Austin.
Yeah, hi. My name is Austin Kent. I'm the content lead for NBA Top Shot, the Dapper Labs product. So I'm on the team that helps pick the moments and time from the NBA and the WNBA that make it into the product that get minted on the blockchain.
Awesome, thank you. And Andy?
Hi, I'm Andy Gore. I've been making football computer games for over 20 years now, and I'm the co-founder of Soccer Manager with my brothers back in 2004. And relevant to this, we've also got like a blockchain project in development called Soccer Manager Elite.
Awesome, thank you. And Christian, how about you?
Christian Henschel. I'm founder of TradeStars. We are a fantasy sports game with a twist, I'd say. We're building actually a decentralized exchange where users trade fantasy stocks of their favorite athletes, and then based on their portfolio, they put that stocks into different games, competing for daily fantasy contests. So I'm a software engineer and entrepreneur for more than 15 years in the blockchain space since 2017.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much for being here. Serena, can you? Okay, I think they're ready. Thank you. Let's start with today's panel. What is the BGA? The BGA is a Blockchain Game Alliance, which is an organization committed to promoting blockchain within the game industry. Our goal is to spread awareness about blockchain technologies and to encourage adoption by highlighting their potential to foster new ways to create, publish, play, and build strong communities around games. We're also strong advocates for diversity and more inclusivity of women in this industry. The BGA also provides an open forum for individuals and companies to share knowledge, collaborate, create common standards, establish best practices, and of course, network. Our core activities are networking, researching and reporting, representing blockchain game companies that are part of our memberships, and advocate for blockchain in the game industry as well. Thank you very much to all our sponsors, which is a very growing list. Very excited about it. AMD, Antler Interactive, Illuvium, One Blue Block, Star Atlas, Gift Games, Splinterlands, Ubisoft, Saya, Fear, Mobox, Gameloft, DNA Cat, Starmon, Vulcanverge, Arc, Non-Fungible Digital Assets, Digital Entertainment Assets, GamerHash, TAP, IOI, TriumphX, Drops, Cartesi, Algorand, Anarchy, Boson, Chromia, Polygon, Nexttype, Yoshi, Sushi, NFTP, Contribute, Galaxy Interactive, Consensus, Tesos, Dakoku, HackerNoon, Polkadot, Animoca Brands, DabRaider, and Simplex. Thank you also to all our members that are among a lot of sectors within the industry as well. Thank you very much for being here, and of course, you're very valuable to us. This is a very growing list. Very excited too, and yeah, always welcoming new members. This is some of the events that we usually do. Organize interviews with industry leaders, collecting NFT series. Events for dedicated for women or inclusivity, workshops on certain topics, new members presentations, free speaking opportunities and conferences, and BGA demo days. Without further ado, let's start with today's panel. You already know Austin, Andy, and Christian from these companies. Let's start with with the panel itself. So first question, this will be for Austin. Let's start from left to right here. So how are NFTs and blockchain enhancing the interaction between fans and sports teams?
I think anytime that you can give anybody a sense of ownership over something, they just naturally become far more engaged in it. And I think what we're seeing with what blockchain unlocks is just such a very tangible way to sort of to prove that ownership, to get people to get people in the door and have it be verifiable that they're invested emotionally, financially, in many cases, in a particular thing. I think that helps really immerse that person in the culture and the community of that sport.
Sorry, I was on mute. Absolutely. So Andy, what's your take on this? Do you think that we're seeing a strong impact on the interaction between fans and sports teams with this technology?
Yeah, I think it's, in some ways, it's definitely, as mentioned, it was like the true ownership over sort of like your favorite player, or is a very interesting thing, and then also being able to sort of track who previously owned that. That's an interesting thing that adds some sort of value to it. It's the transparency of who had the asset. The player might have had that asset himself before he sold it around, and that adds some value to it. And then also sort of the opportunity of being able to people have always, as mentioned, people have always collected things, and that being able to sort of collect it, but in that unique way where you've got the trail mark of who's had it before, and all these new opportunities that open up in collecting things makes it very interesting. And combining that's not just collecting anything, is as Austin said, it is very human nature to collect stuff, and being able to collect your sports heroes and stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Christian, well, as Andy is saying, along Austin too, well, it's very common here in Latin America that we usually have these kind of albums where you paste your little
I remember,
cards. You remember those?
I remember the World Cup 1990. I think the last one I filled. Yeah.
I had several. I had some from sports, and some from Pokemon and stuff like that. So it of course makes a lot of sense that people want to collect these kind of things, these little cards about players, about the teams, etc. So what's your take on this as well?
I think this very simple concept. I mean, the proof of ownership in a public ledger, right? Identifying something that it's yours in a public way. I mean, it's the first time I believe that we can have a digital item that's unique. It's yours. And this is very simple, but it has a tremendous potential. I think we are seeing now the tip of the iceberg. They're just collectibles around maybe moments or determined IP, like pictures of players or something like that, rare cards and like that. But I think that's it will have a tremendous impact. I think that in the future that this will evolve into something that we can bridge the online and the offline. I think this is here for a true revolution. And this year, I mean, NFTs are around for many years, but this year it just took mainstream. I think Top Shot contributed to that, and I believe that in the future we will see even more and more use cases for this technology, I think.
Yeah, I agree. We're only getting started with it. So Austin, on this note, what does tokenizing teams mean, and what opportunities it may bring?
I think, like Christian said, this is such a great opportunity to bridge the online world with the offline world, and I think when we think about how this can be applied to sports, professional sports, really sports or business of any level, I think companies would all benefit from kind of going through their current business plan, auditing to see what could be enhanced by this proof of ownership. And I think we're still so early in this, in this game that basically anywhere you can look, it doesn't take long for you to start having ideas and conversations about what could be like enhanced by that verifiable ownership, transparent, visible to all on the blockchain. So when I think about tokenizing teams, I think about just every step of maybe the fan experience, fan engagement in person, from the whole ticketing system to loyalty discounts and concessions. That really we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. But I think it's just an exciting time for any sports team to really have that opportunity to go through top down and see where the improvements can be made.
Yeah, I definitely agree. We're only getting started with this, and I will just move on to the next question because I think it's very related to what you're saying. So this may be for Andy as well. So do you think that digital collectives will compete with physical collectives for sports fans, or do you think that they just will complement each other's? What do you think about this?
In my view, I think they'll complement each other. Some people always like physical assets, like the stickers that you were mentioning before. There were some people and still have the sticker albums and they enjoy keeping them and collecting them, and then just on the stickers as well. They were also tradable. I remember people used to trade stickers with each other, and there's some.
I used to do it at school. Did you know?
Yeah, it used to be loads of fun. And there's always a kid who turns up with a big stack of them. It's got every player. But it's always fun, and you open up a packet, you're collecting a bunch of stickers, and then you've got a spare one, and then someone else doesn't. That was always a lot of fun. But I think just doing that digitally just opens it up to more people, I guess. It makes it more accessible. And apart from the other benefits of some people might think that actually physically having something is the true way of having it, and that is a unique copy. It might be an autograph, actually a signed autograph on a picture of a player or something, which I suppose you can sort of like have it digitally signed. I will if it came from that player. It's a similar kind of thing. So I think it's like I don't think they're mutually exclusive. I think they just complement each other. It's just another way of collecting things and different unique ways of utility that you could do with a digital one that you can't maybe do with a physical one, such as play it in a game. However, people might have collected not exactly sports players, but these cards that they've got characters, they've got attributes, and they play some sort of physical game. And the NFTs, you've got the ability to play them in a computer game. So yeah, I think they just complement each other in my view.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, and well, it complements, and I remember, as you were saying, with these sticker albums, one of the funnest part was, or most fun part was trading with your classmates, with people you with your friends, people from your neighborhood, or whoever you wanted to complete an album, for instance. And this is something that you can do as well with NFTs. You can trade NFTs. You can trade these digital cards if you'd like with other people. So, Christian, what's your take on this? I mean, and how has been how has people welcomed this idea of trading digital assets as we usually did with physical stickers or cards or whatever?
I think it was the cornerstone of this booming of the NFTs, I believe. I mean, the utility case that took the NFTs to the main market, I would say. But I think it's complementary. I believe it's having it online. You can do some really cool stuff. Like, for example, Dapper Labs did 4 years ago with CryptoKitties. You can breathe. You can create new things based on the things that you collect. So I think it has a tremendous potential on that side, and I don't see that. Maybe with new generations, it's moving to the online. I don't know if we'll replace it or not for good. But I think that now it's complementary. I mean, now people likes to collect things, own unique stuff. But on top of that, if you can have a gaming layer where you can, I don't know, collect some stuff and breed them and have a new one that's unique for you. I think in that sense it's complementary. It doesn't compete with the physical one because you can't do that with the physical one, and it also has more. Being online, I mean, it can be. It's more liquid, it can be traded and the market is the world. So I think it's definitely complementary, and with many to explore on the potential it has to have these in the digital world, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's a very exciting space as well, and evolving day by day. How people interact with these digital assets from their favorite teams or players. It's very exciting as well. So this leads us to this is for Andy. So what are the opportunities what are the new opportunities that are appearing for sports companies with blockchain?
I think it's like another channel for sports companies to be involved in, and with a sort of like a different type of audience, another audience. And there seems to also be a lot of now at least coming about where there's a lot of people willing to spend money in that space. So that's certainly an opportunity for them. And from a sort of like a games perspective, it's another way of using their IP to appear in games, sort of like the ownership, play to earn, these sort of opportunities. So I think that's probably the main opportunities that I sort of see getting from a games perspective. Of course, that's where I'm sort of looking at it mostly, with those NFTs representing the sports company's IP could appear in games, traded, owned, utilised. Yeah, I think that's something that I'm sort of got my mind on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry.
Sorry, yes, no, that made me think about something, and I would love to ask everyone to be a bit creative on these questions I've got not prepared, but thinking 10 years down the line, what we are doing today, like going to watch a match, for example, can be compared to buy an NFT. So how do you see the actual sport match, for example, compared to an NFT down the line? How do you see that types of experiences being becoming closer, and become part of the one experience in relation to sport? So I don't know, how does the future looks like for your projects, I would say?
I think that
I see you nodding. So
anytime, I love your example. Like if you go to a game, if you go to a match, you basically get an NFT. Like, because think of all the things that just that sentence unlocks. You have a souvenir. I don't know about you guys, but I remember trying to keep ticket stubs from some of the first basketball games that I went to. They've been bent, crumpled. They're in my pocket. Maybe they went through the wash, and maybe I try to save them. But it's just, I have some emotional attachment to them. But for the most part, they're basically garbage. But anytime you can tie an NFT to that experience, you have a built-in souvenir, and the sky is the limit for what you want to do with that from a creative perspective. But even from when you think about the business implications of having that, if every ticket to a game is an NFT, you put so much more power in the hands of the teams issuing that. You see the OpenSea effect for artists all of a sudden unlocking a world where they get a share of the secondary market, which would otherwise, it would not come back to the original artist. So anytime a sports team sells a ticket and then the ticket gets sold again and again, every time a transaction happens, the team can retain a part of that revenue built into the smart contract. And I think there's just a whole world of opportunity in terms of the data that the blockchain allows, in terms of, now a sports team knows that you were like proven to have purchased a ticket and have attended a game, and can tie maybe loyalty or future incentives to that. So I think that's such an interesting opportunity that sports teams can definitely explore soon.
Yeah, 100%. And beyond collectibles, how do you see like blockchain supporting, for example, the sports community, but also, the players as well? So I don't know if you have any ideas around that, Christian or Andy.
Maybe something around DAOs would be interesting as well. So
It's
sorry
interesting.
for.
It's. I was thinking about if there's some community more passionate than the sport community. I mean, this is. I think it's the best place to bridge the online and the offline. You can do loyal programs, like Austin said, and you can have minted NFTs around special events. You've been participating on this a match that was unique. It was, I don't know, the final of the World Cup, for example, and then you can have a souvenir of that moment. That's yours. You can make the fan base to compete. You can create, the team can create some sort of competition between the fan base to, for the best followers of the team or whatever. They can have special seats, or you can also have DAOs, and you can have voting in real time, for example. I don't know. For me, it's a very powerful thing, as I mentioned in the first question, and we are just scratching the surface for this. And it shows this year, I think it shows us that sports and the category of sports and this the fan base, it's taking this concept, it's embracing this concept. We're seeing companies like NBA Top Shot or Chili's. They're doing, taking the lead, and it's one of the best or most performing spaces on the blockchain space right now. So I think it's very powerful, and we will see many, many ideas to become reality in the next few years.
True. Andy, any other great idea to add into the future?
Yeah, I think as I might have heard Luis say something about DAOs. I think that's really interesting. What we were doing with the Elite game, we've sort of built DAOs into it, where you've got your team, and we sort of like did fractionalized NFTs. We can own shares within those teams, and then so not just collecting like the players or the clubs or other assets that you can collect. You can kind of like gather together and vote on what you want that entity to do, what you want that NFT to go and do. And then within a game, they can kind of like compete with each other as well, these different DAOs. So in our case, the manager of a football club, so the shareholders will vote a manager in, and then that manager's got to submit the tactics for the next fixtures that they've got to play, buy and sell football players, which themselves are also fractionalized NFTs that can also vote, and they are DAOs themselves as well, the actual players, because the shareholders in the players, and they will elect an agent to represent them, who's their figurehead, and he's making sort of decisions whether he wants to move to that club, whether he's happy at his current club. So sort of like, yeah, so we've took a kind of an approach there where we've sort of fractionalized up the NFTs into a voting kind of system, and then from that voting system, we've made these DAOs, and it sort of starts bringing an ecosystem to life. So I think, that's just what we've been playing with, but there's all sorts of opportunities with this sort of stuff. It's very, very interesting. And I think one last thing is, it is like this true ownership that makes it different to sort of like other standard games. You can own assets in other games, or you think you do, but that game, then assets can be took off you, they can be closed down. So the DAOs, you can have DAOs in other games, but not off pure assets that you definitely own. That's what I think makes these sort of things a bit more interesting.
Yeah, 100%. And, I'm imagining games in the future where assets will become interoperable cross games. And so that will become another interesting feature. I hope I will, be seeing those days becoming a reality. But yeah, definitely interesting. Something I would love to propose as well for the blockchain game community is to have an ongoing workshops around all these ideas, having different sessions, which we can definitely host at the BGA, where we can actually bring together sports blockchain games and see how those things can become a reality. Because that's one of the things we love to run. Put people in a virtual room, let them brainstorm and see what can come out of it. So that's already on my list. Luis, I'll let you continue with your questions. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you very much, Serena, and everyone else. So yeah, let's move on to the next question. If as we told you, if you want to make an intervention, you can do it freely. So no worries about it, and feel free to do it, any one of you. So yeah, Andy, and I know that it's something that might be related to what we were previously discussing. So what are new revenue models that you can see and happening right now, or that might happen in the future as well? And as Irina was saying, try to get creative with this. What are new revenue models that might be emerging from blockchain in sports games?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the one that jumps out is actually selling the NFTs themselves, selling those assets and the sports brands or anybody involved in it selling their IP or making use of their IP by selling the NFTs, and then the secondary trading if that was in there. And then there's, I think, sort of things that are kind of emerging, or certainly will emerge, is then being able to make revenue streams off utilizing those NFTs in games. Like, again, I talk about it from a games perspective. There's probably many other non-games things that will emerge, but from a games perspective, yeah, utilizing those NFTs, being able to sort of like a play to earn type model where the users can sort of win battles or whatever it may be with those NFTs, and then selling off the spoils of those winning things that they've gained. So I think that's certainly something. And yeah, and then you could maybe start sort of loaning. You might get into all this sort of DeFi thing, even from a games perspective, where you could start maybe loaning your assets to somebody else, and then they use them in a game. Maybe they're better at using the assets than you are and can deploy them better. It's all it's limitless, really, what you could start doing with this sort of stuff. As long as you can let your imagination run wild. Anything that you can do centrally in games, you could then start doing, but because you have the true ownership, it allows you to earn from your activities or from other people's activities. And all the words that we hear, the buzzwords, yeah, you could, as I said, you could loan them to different people and they use them as, sell them on, sort of rent your assets out, things like that. It's all from a gaming perspective. That's sort of, I see those sort of things.
Yeah, well, you're right. The sky's the limit in some way. Christian, I saw you unmuting yourself. Do you want to add something else?
No, it's okay. I was thinking about the play to earn model, which is, I think it's a new concept. It's emerging from the true ownership of these assets. And I think on top of that, we are seeing secondary market transactions in OpenSeas. I mean, you can implement loans for this. I mean, you can lend your items inside the game for other people to make money with them, and then you can have a share for that. I think what we are doing here is to decentralizing and giving the users and the teams or the creators and the users the power to be connected directly, I would say, and that thing alone creates the possibility for new models, as we are seeing. This play to earn stuff that's ramping up right now on the blockchain space. It's pretty unique, I think. So I just wanted to mention on that, I think.
Yeah, agree. And Austin, do you want to add something else that comes to mind to this question?
I think what these guys just said about unlocking the potential of that secondary marketplace, it's just such a consistent stream of passive revenue that would all of a sudden be accessible. I think that's such an exciting part of it.
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And Austin, let's keep with you for this question. So how do you think that blockchain can impact the identity of users as fans of a team? Do you see this evolving, changing, staying the same?
Yeah, I think it can definitely change in such a dramatic way. We've seen the tech world, at least, it just embrace this sense of digital identity through the NFTs that they own. Just look at the success of any number of PFP projects, right? People are so open to kind of putting forth stuff that they're passionate about as their identity online. And whether that's an ape or a punk or you name it, there's so many different things that people will cling to, and they say, hey, this represents me, I'm proud of it, and I'm happy to let this be my sort of proxy in the digital space. I think that's definitely going to happen in sports. I think it's already started to happen in sports. Certainly, at least in the Top Shot world, there's so many different collectors they'll pursue different moments. Some of them are the holy grail moments that they would just love to get, one day, but maybe it's out of reach. But you're seeing people say, hey, like, I'm a fan of the Los Angeles Lakers. And I mean, you could look at all the posters like on my wall, or you could see there like an indisputable display on the blockchain is I'm a Lakers, like I have the Lakers team set, and I have the badge that represents that. I have access to the very specific exclusive community unlocked only for holders of that team set. So I think on a personal level, there's just that's an itch that NFTs can scratch by giving that sort of proof to prove your loyalty and allegiance to a sports team. And I think the synergistic benefits that can have with the sports teams themselves, who can then say, oh, so-and-so claims they're a Lakers fan. Let's see like how much of a Lakers fan are they? And this is where you start having conversations about the currency of fandom and stuff like that. If the Lakers can know for a fact that you've been collecting Lakers moments or Lakers NFTs for X amount of time, they can lean into that in their own ways, and then the community can build off of that accordingly. I just think it's such a fun part of as we head forward into the metaverse, being able to really provably associate and align yourself with a team is going to be such a big part of it.
Yeah, I agree. And now that you're saying the metaverse, there's a huge business model for sports teams when they sell their T-shirts, and digital fashion is becoming a huge trend as well, especially in metaverse and games and other platforms. So it will be really, really cool. The teams start dressing these avatars or selling their digital T-shirts for people to play, and that would be a very interesting way for people to say, "Hey, yeah, I'm definitely the ultimate fan of this sports team," in my opinion. So, Christian, what do you think about this? How do you think that blockchain is impacting the identity of users as fans of a team?
It's interesting. I think that they are becoming part of it. I mean, they suddenly the fan base is becoming part of the event I mean, they are interacting against each other now. They have a platform to do that. So I think that's impacting in the engagement and this will impact in the engagement and the connection with the team and the connection within the audience. Because, as Austin was saying, maybe I can collect items or memorabilia from my favorite team in my room, but I also can I collect it and trade it with the other fans and compete with the other fans who are the same, who has the same taste as me and the same followers of the same team. So it's creating more engagement, and we will see more of this, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, there's many things to come in this space as well, and I think that it, as we were saying previously, it will kind of become like a way to say I'm the best fan of this team, and I mean, I cannot be a better fan than I am right now, and yeah, and even owning digital assets of this team. So I'm definitely the number one fan of this team, or this player in particular. So you were saying that blockchain is incentivizing fan engagement. Andy, do you think that blockchain is incentivizing fan engagement or will impact in a negative way physical environments? Like, do you see, and this is also getting trying to get creative with this one. Do you see that people will start engaging even more with uh, the digital aspect of teams, or do you see that physical environment, like going to the stadium and owning physical stuff, will still remain as as their main source of engagement with their teams?
Yeah, I mean, going to a stadium is always fun. It's a very social thing. I think people would always want to sort of see the heroes play the match day. From a football perspective, it's the whole match day can be an experience, like a day out with your friends, and like a sort of real social activity that you can to go and do. And I think that will always be around. And then, or even maybe physically collecting the match day brochure that you take home. And I think that's all part of the football experience. And certainly in the UK, it's like the drinking of the beer around it all as well and stuff like that. So it's a very social, can be a very social kind of thing. And the atmosphere that you get, being sort of really far-fetched and using my imagination, could you later, blockchain aside, could you sort of experience that in some sort of other environment, VR headsets, when they get better? I mean, I don't know. That might be the way things go in many years. But from actual owning, from the digital perspective, owning these sort of things, yeah, I think it's just kind of complements, I think, and it will certainly engage a different way for fans to engage, like was said earlier about proving your loyalty. You're owning more stuff. You could make that easier to show. It's public. You can't really show your friends or whoever it is what your collection of t-shirts is in all your past football programs or whatever sport that you're visiting and all. But this is a way of making it public en masse. If you really wanted to prove it, you could, and people will do that. They'll look how loyal I am. I've collected all these NFTs and so forth. I just think it just complements, and it's another way of doing the core thing is proving their loyalty. They might get tattoos of their favorite sport teams, and they walk around with the t-shirts and so forth. They can get very, very passionate. So that'll always still happen. And then you've got this digital way of a different audience to showing off your passion to, I guess, because you could do it to many more people that wouldn't otherwise see you or see your collection of stuff. So I think it's more of a complementary, and the two will still coexist.
Yeah, absolutely. And you said it. Well, sports are very social thing, are social events, and that's what people are mostly looking for, I guess. Socialize with people, with other fans, with friends while watching sports. And moving on with kind of this same line. Maybe this one will be for Austin. Do you see any sports teams, fan bases moving into a more virtual ecosystem and taking decisions for their team's management uh, in a decentralized system, for instance, or whatever it comes to your mind?
with blockchain, anything is possible. And I think when I think of this question, I think sort of two things. The sort of lowest hanging fruit that pops into my mind is there are aspects of, franchise decision making that I think franchise would welcome community input on. And I think anytime you see a team change names or an expansion team, there's always some element of getting the community involved, whether it's recommending names or voting into like a short list of candidates. But to my knowledge, no team has actually let the fans be the final determining factor, because that can be influenced. The next thing you know, you have a team named something just because like a brigade of people on the internet, tried to exploit something. So I think you've got these sort of conflicting things where sports teams are happy to get people involved, but they just can't completely trust the idea of kind of handing over the keys and letting the community handle it. I think with what blockchain represents, it's really sort of this way to allow for a bit more, to kind of give more of the leash to the community and let them determine things like that. So I don't know if the next expansion team that gets announced for whatever professional sports league, maybe they could directly let the community determine. Maybe it's only people that have NFTs, for the expansion team. They're the ones that can have a vote, like to determine whatever, whether it's the logo or the mascot or anything. I think that's kind of a more short-term, like, potential reality. But when you think even more ambitiously, like, there's so many just grand projects in the works already that are taking, communities of like people who, share the same like profile picture project, that are then finding new creative ways to take the funds like gained from that sale and then investing them in other things like DAOs. And you're getting so many smart ideas from a lot of smart people that are really finding a way to harness that strength in numbers that can be proven on the blockchain. So does the idea of maybe one day a community of passionate, soccer fans, do they come together and end up buying like a second or third tier like sports franchise? I just wouldn't rule anything out anymore. I just think there's just such an opportunity, and there's so much passion for people to explore really what they're capable of. And I think we're finding this empowerment is unlocking access at so many different levels in the sports world. So I can see it happening in the short term and in the long term.
Yeah, definitely. Christian, what do you think of this, about people taking decisions for their teams?
Same as Austin. I couldn't agree more. I think that we are, in the short term, we are seeing I believe we will see some stuff regarding satellite stuff, not taking real decisions on teams and that. Satellite stuff, I mean, like that you said, mascot, what's the mascot for the team, or minor stuff like decisions that the fan base can do. But I think it's a bold call for the teams to give the fan base real decisions on their directions, for example. But I believe also that these models where you can have some decentralized votes based on the shares you have or the NFTs you have around some franchise and something, you can if we fast forward in the future, and I think this will happen eventually. I mean, this will happen. Like you can have a fan base of people interacting through a DAO and taking decisions like buying a player or buying a franchise. I think that's this is very powerful. And when we see more and more people into this industry, we are just starting. I think when this get massive, really, I think this will happen.
Awesome. And Andy, do you want to add anything else to this? To these ideas of people taking decisions for teams?
I've got similar views on it, really. Yeah, I mean, it's not even outside of the NFT sort of DAO blockchain sphere. I think it's more of a kind of a question of sort of leadership and consistency of kind of what that team's trying to do in its long-term strategy, rather than it making key major decisions. So, for example, I think there are some lower league football clubs. I think there's one in France that have tried something, and I think there's one in the UK, really minor, small clubs and organisations. And I'm not too sure if it works very well for them, or it's worked out very well, even though it's a very interesting idea. If that really worked, it could have been done before NFTs, and it just have some sort of voting for the fan mechanisms. And I guess NFTs might prove that they've got X amount of votes, but there's probably more physical ways that it could be done as well. Like when you vote for things, it doesn't have to be NFTs. It might make it more, people be able to do it more remotely, I guess. However, so say with a football club, you made your decisions, you'd want some sort of strategy. You wouldn't want the matches voted each week based on what fans' opinions. Fans have got very strong opinions on who's better than who and what formation you can play. They get very passionate about it. And even in the same club, who's good, who isn't, who they should buy, who they should sell. There's so much strong opinions amongst the fans. I don't think they can have any sort of consistency over a season to sort of keep that strategy of who to rest, who to play. I think it does need a central sort of manager for the team, and running of a club, like an organisation, probably kind of needs a leader, I would say. Otherwise, if that wasn't the case, these organisations, football clubs, would probably be running like that, or more of them would be running like that as we speak. If that, it's so competitive, if that was an efficient model of doing it, someone, a few of them would be doing it, I think. In terms of games and things, I think it's a bit different. As I mentioned earlier, we've sort of built these DAOs into our elite game, and we've built it where they elect a leader. So they elect a manager, or they elect an agent to represent the players. It's kind of the brains of the player. So we've done that approach. We won't, they can vote to elect somebody, but they won't actually run the club as a group of them deciding the tactics or anything. Or I think I think it might have been a Christian mentioned earlier, maybe it's like trivial things of who the mascot is, who's the best player for that day. That might be something they could vote, I think. Things like that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Serena.
Wonderful. Yes. Well, thank you so much. You guys have been showing so many great ideas, and I think the current state of the art about sports and blockchain games is very interesting, and definitely one of the vertical in the NFT space that needs to be watching. I have a question for you now. Sotheby's has recently announced the second wave for the natively digital collectibles from collectors, and I see lots of cards and collectibles that are now for auction. I would love to ask you, where do you see a space for sports collectibles NFTs being represented in a more traditional world? And if those should be auctioned in auction houses, or how do you see those collectibles compared to art? Because I think the limits now are very, blurry in terms of what is art, what is a collectible, what is an NFT. And I got really, really curious about these news being released by Sotheby's. So what's your stand on that? Austin?
I think sports have just become this, this isn't new, but sports have just become this massive part of culture and who we are. And I think if anything's changing, maybe it's the demographic of the people with the money to engage in that, sort of format. And so to see sports start to seep into these areas that we might have just, kind of assumed to be very prestigious for the rich, out of reach for ordinary people. I think sports are on just as much of a pedestal as any form of artwork. We're just now seeing people who are happy to share their love of sports are now in positions where they can, go to an auction and throw significant sums of money around at memorable sports moments or autographs or relics. So it's exciting for the sports world.
Andy, Christian, when do you see the next sport card being auctioned at an auction house?
Oh, it's a hard question. I think that for answering where's the limit between what we are seeing around NFT collections and arts, I think it's kind of blurry, and we are seeing many different I'd say ideas going on, and at the end we'll see what's the best based on the adoption. I would say. Sorry, the last part you asked me is, come again, please.
Yeah, when you would see the next sport card being auctioned, for example, at Sotheby's or another auction house.
Very soon, I think.
Yeah.
Where do you see
tomorrow,
it? When do you see it? Yeah, no, I think very soon. I mean, I think they are taking. I mean, what we are seeing now, it's like a second wave of companies that are not into. I mean, they're not coming from the blockchain space, but they are trying to adopt the technology. So I think that we are seeing some ideas that these companies are trying on the blockchain. I will see even more. I think it's yes, like a second wave. I would say this following the leaders of the space, the Vaporlabs, for example, and now we're seeing some others that already have IPs or traditional business models trying to get into the blockchain space. I mean, they're embracing it. So it's like they are validating, I think, the model, and they are trying to embrace it and try to leverage on it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Andy, you want to add any last comment to this?
Not really. No, I don't really know the answer to that too much. I don't think. But yeah, I think as Christian said, it's like people. If people will, I think something like that will happen at some point. I think it's people from the traditional places will sort of just embracing this sort of stuff, and that will certainly happen a lot more.
Yeah,
it's like a very sensible sort of thing that you say. That it's a very good question.
Yeah, but for sure. We'll have to see where the adoption will drive, major interest and how things will be collected in the, I don't want to say in the future because it's happening right now, but, going forward. Anyways, guys, it's been a pleasure to have you at the virtual stage at the BGA. So thank you so much, Austin, Christian, and Andy, for being with us. Thank you to everyone that's been watching. If you do have questions or want to join more events at the BGA, make sure to follow all our channels. We're present on Telegram, Discord, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. We have more events coming up soon, but thank you all again for staying with us on this panel around blockchain games and sports. Thank you, Louise, for moderating this conversation, and see you all again next week. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
See you next